What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chicago Black Delegation Podcast. I'm your host, HT, aka High Thinking, and today we have a very special guest today. We got my homeboy Fanatiq. Fanatiq, man, let him know something about you, bro. What you about? Who are you from, and what you do?
Let's see. So what I do is I live my life to the fullest.
There we go.
Nah, but real talk. I'm a ex-fighting game professional. I used to play video games professionally for quite some time. I've been a musician my entire life. That's how I make a living right now. I am a music director for the band Dirty Rice, which is a Frankie Beverly tribute band. We do shows all around, like literally all around the country. So I do that. And then, that's the main thing. I'm just a musician, and I discuss politics quite a bit. I've debated like a lot of, important, or people who thought they were important at least.
Kicking a little ass into debates too.
Yeah, that's something I've always just been kind of keen on, and I think I'm a particularly good debater, to be honest. Sucking myself there, but it's true. Yeah, you name them. I've debated quite a few people, and I feel like I've watched them all.
Yeah. I would argue to be quite the prolific voice in especially in the black space, but also the political space as well. I think I'm very, very, very grateful of your ability to spend a little bit of time with me. And I think a lot of people will definitely benefit from your input, and especially in this conversation, this tonight's conversation. But okay. Basically, today I was featured in a recent MCR video. It's already done. It's doing way better than most of my videos already. But the MCR. How would he classify himself? What I'm trying to be as generous about it as possible. Now he's definitely gotten some trouble with maybe some level of government officials about his content being overly, let's say, misogynistic and stuff like that. But he would not classify himself as that. He would just call himself label himself as a men's advocate. For the most part, I'm for the most part a fan of him. I do watch his stuff. I've watched him for a while, and I think what I want to say is, like, after a while, after a couple years of engaging in like this in this like area of YouTube. And then venturing off into like alternative, spaces on YouTube, like social spaces on YouTube, and starting to kind of get other opinions and get other takes as far as dating dynamics and economy and politics and all that stuff. I started to get I started kind of implementing a lot of different things. A lot of things I learned from different spaces. You know what I mean? Because the fact of the matter is, there's just some things that like, as a very basic example, there's a lot of things that red pill content creators or whatever like to show all of the the nonsense that women do in dating and stuff like that. Sure, whatever. Like, some of this stuff a lot of stuff can actually be seen as true for the most part. Sure. And then I just started like, what's the other side to thinking? What do they say about all this stuff? And they come with a whole host of like things that I just couldn't argue against. You know what I'm saying? Now, albeit some things is kind of head ass, but you know what I'm saying? But with me being a cherry picker that I am, yeah, it's like, we can say that some things is just, the proof is just in the pudding. There's a lot of let's say shootings that happen in the black community, and women and children are victims of those things. You know what I'm saying? And there's just something, even though we all know that, between me and you, Fanatiq, we know the history behind or how these people were displaced and how the opportunities were stripped from underneath their feet, so on and so forth, that kind of led these people into like these destitute positions. Then crack cocaine happened. You know what I'm saying? So I honestly think that it was like a bit of a strategic attack placed in by the government, placed in by white supremacy for us to destroy ourselves. And I just wish those, the other side of these spaces respected that. But at the same time, this side, especially a lot of members of the black male advocacy YouTube groups, they don't understand that there's a I think Dr. Joy DeGroy, I believe her name was. She was the author of post-traumatic slave syndrome, and she basically emphasized like the generational trauma that's been passed down to us from Plymouth Rock. I mean, it's when chattel slavery started. When those people were freed via emancipation, there was no therapy offered to these people. There was like, let alone resources. It was, I mean, it was offered, and then it was stripped. Like, what's that man's name? Abraham Lincoln got assassinated, and the next guy just canceled all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So things was gonna happen, but it was stripped right from us. And today we are pretty much living example, or living proof of what systemic oppression can do to a generation, a people via the generations, or generation after generation. But I'm blabbering too much. I apologize. But I'm just saying that and understand all these things, I think is at the very least, as Black people, we can, if we understood these things, we'll have a little bit more empathy and a little bit more understood perspective. I mean, we'll understand each other's perspectives a little bit better. But well, here we are, and that's the aim of my podcast, is to remind Black people that the information is already out there. Now let's connect the dots, and let's connect it to each other so that we can start, let's say, moving in a way that is going to be for the better good of our communities and our collectives, not just us individually. That's just my take on it. Okay. Otherwise, basically, I just want to have this conversation. I just want you to watch this video with you, Fanatiq, and then I kind of want you to kind of coach me, if you will, and show me where I went wrong, what opportunities did I miss, and things like things of that nature. I'm pretty sure you are, let's say, well studied on manipulatory debating tactics and stuff like that, and I believe you know how to spot them.
Sure.
You said sure.
Sure. The thing is, it's not that I study like bad debating tactics. I think what it is more so, I just kind of I struggle when things are inconsistent. I don't know how to handle inconsistencies. It bothers me if something doesn't make sense. Might be some autism, who knows? But I just don't like it when things don't add up or when things don't make sense.
For sure.
I'm very, very particular about how I communicate, what I'm saying, what I'm intending to say, and I think I never allow a person to speak for me. I think I'm incredibly well spoken, so I'm very, very careful with my diction. And so then if someone tries to rephrase or reframe what I'm saying, very often I will like immediately just repeat it back in my own words. So if someone says, it sounds like you were saying, then more often than not, instead of like listening to what they're saying and go, yeah, that is what I'm saying, I'm more likely to just go ahead and repeat it again and say, what I'm saying is, as opposed to letting someone reframe. And I don't know that it's not that I'm like thinking of a debate tactic. I think I just have a hard time. I don't handle not being heard well and someone misunderstanding me well. So more often than not, if someone's trying to like rephrase or something like that, I'm gonna go ahead and probably speak up and say, nope, this is what I'm saying, or I just never allow someone that power to do that.
Oh, for sure. But okay, so yeah, that sounds good. That's I think that's pretty important. I think that's definitely something I need to. Yeah, man, I never thought of it that way before. Interesting. I'm gonna have to meditate on that one. I wasn't ready for you to say that.
Really quickly though, but before you get to the point of like of being very particular and like, you know, not letting people speak for you, et cetera, all that stuff, the first step in that is to be very, very very, very confident and comfortable in exactly what you're trying to communicate, so that someone can't take you out of context, or they don't need to, because sometimes people might not be genuinely trying to. It might not be an attempted thing, but just more so a product of if you're not speaking well, then they might feel the need, like I need to try to interpret. I need to try to guess what it is that they're saying because I'm not able to follow. You know what I mean? And so you have to make sure that you do the work yourself first, in being particularly well spoken and like making sure your ideas are ironed out and stuff like that before you can become very particular about not allowing other people to speak for you, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry, man. Zovia talking about bro wants some anti-retard strategy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's bad. I appreciate that, bro. But yeah, thanks, man. Like I said, this is definitely. I don't want to say it's new territory for me because I've definitely been listening to you. I've been listening to other names, other relatively big names. Have these types of have these very competitive conversations for quite a while, actually. Try to pick up on certain things. I did kind of pick up on something like one of your I would say signature methods, and it's just exactly what you just kind of said, like repeating yourself. But it's funny because I had just really briefly, I kind of had this thing where I let people cut me off and without me completely finishing like my statement. And you know, I attend therapy like every week and stuff like that. And one thing that my therapist said was, no, the person that is listening to you has to respect your entire thought. They have to be able to let you say everything you need to say from the beginning to end. And I can like assert that within the confines of my friends, but it doesn't happen in this debate. You know what I'm saying? So I do recognize there were some things that I definitely could have did better in this debate. Some things that I already acknowledged. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I kind of have you here to kind of, you know, acknowledge or just help me point out some additional things so that, you know, in the future when I debate other individuals and that I may be able to improve. But even more so, even a bigger, like I would say the bigger conversation I have here is, I want other people, onlookers, especially my audience, right, to be able to pick up on the same cues and the same techniques that you're going to be sharing with me. You know what I mean? And I think, I think those manipulatory debate tactics is a very important thing. It's some very important key items to understand, especially when it comes to basically when they happen. You just need to be able to point them out and then show the audience that, hey, this is what this person's trying to do, sir. Why are you using this sort of technique, or why are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to be manipulative at this current juncture? Regardless, I appreciate you of your time, Fanatiq, and for everybody that's watching, I appreciate y'all time as well. But yeah, let's get this show on the road.
All right, but we can still hear you. What you got for me?
What's wrong with black networking? This is in regards to the shorty with the green dress.
Black networking?
Shorty with the green dress and the guy with the brown shirt. Now he redeemed himself in that last clip, right? When he had said when he stuck up for the men that are trying to be in their children's lives, right, with the fathers. That guy in the brown shirt, he tried to connect with the chick with the green dress that had the businesses, right? Remember her?
So your answer is, what's wrong with black networking?
Yeah, my question to you is, what's wrong with black networking? So let me
nothing. No. Let me answer your question. Absolutely nothing.
So I'm very big on supporting.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got my own clothing line. Is you putting it in your store or not?
Ridiculous work. You say one of your 5-year goals is to create a clothing line. Then you ask this woman who says that she wants to create multiple businesses if you would put your not yet created clothing line in her store. Dastardly, feminine, and diabolical work, my friend. There is no clothing line. You've been talking about for the last 27 years about you creating a clothing line, and it's never coming to fruition. And tiaras, you gotta be able to identify the bullshit.
Just want to put out there, putting 27 years on that man is pretty wild to me, but I get it. This is about being fallacious and being entertaining and stuff like that, but I'm just saying, man, putting that on him is kind of OD. Was pretty OD in my opinion.
So he starts off, but he's saying he doesn't like the idea that the guy told her that he doesn't. That the guy told her that he wants her to put his clothes in his clothing line, and that's the main contention.
Yeah,
right?
well, he does. Well, yeah, MCR has a problem with the brother putting his clothing line in the women's clothing store. Like that's what the whole, and how do I put this? And we're gonna see how MCR essentially frames that as a feminine thing, and that is the reason for my contention, because I don't think adding a some sort of a gender to any sort of business practice makes any coherent sense whatsoever. Like, that's my actual problem in all of this.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
When you see it, asking a woman whether or not she's going to help support your business, your life that you're supposed to create for yourself, and at the same junction say that I don't want to work in a couple of years, is the absolute identification that you're dealing with a bum. That ain't it, brother. Nasty word. No wonder he's got no shape up. Now, if you put what I was saying in the context correctly, what it was that I was saying, then you would understand why I don't think a man should position himself from a woman that he does not know. There's nothing wrong with black people networking. What an odd and ridiculous question. Anyway, go on. I'm listening.
So yeah, I mean Okay, now I will say this: the manner of it, which he presented it, was kind of like he could have did a little bit better with the negotiation. But for him to say that, hey, I got a clothing line. How about I attach my clothing line to your store so we can do some business? It's like the way you kind of frame it to some sort of a masculine, feminine role is just kind of weird to me. You feel me? Whereas from my perspective, I just saw two black people trying to work some business. And I just don't understand why we have to add ad hominem to. So yeah, I want to add this as well. So this race baiting label he's putting on me is pretty interesting. I don't know. I go as far as a label a straw man, because it's nowhere near indicative of like my actual stance or the actual reason I called him that day, right? But for him to put on the title race baiter challenging me and then gets checked or whatever the fuck he said is quite interesting to say the least. But I mean, this is YouTube. I know what time it is, and I know how to respond to like individuals like that. You feel me? That aside, what I just explained to you, what I explained in the video rather, is how I come about approaching this from a black perspective. In my opinion, especially from the black standpoint, we're on borrowed time. Okay, politically, especially financially, we're on the uptick, which is great. I'm glad black people are definitely taking college or education serious, and we are getting the jobs that we deserve. However, we're still on borrowed time, and it's in our best interest to take every opportunity to invest in each other, to trade, to network with each other. I mean, it's like one thing, like I'm dating, you know what I'm saying? And one thing that I talk to women about that I match with on these dating apps or whatever is, hey, I got a podcast. If you want to, if you feel comfortable enough, why don't you stop in and we can have a conversation and whatever. You never know what could happen. You know what I mean? We did like these, right. Like the women I attract is to have really vibrant personalities, really well-mannered women, and then whole nine. I think it'd be a great look for the black community for these women that I choose to date to step in and have a conversation with the world and stuff like that. So, and it's not, and I'm open to that even if we don't work out as a relationship, because the fact of the matter is, if I meet a dope person that has great ideas, it doesn't matter if we are like knocking boots and all that stuff. What's important is that we both may collaborate, and then we turn some random dating app hookup thing into something that can make both of us some substantial money. You know what I mean? So
okay,
yes, I don't really.
So basically, you're just, in a nutshell, it sounds like you're just saying you're open to networking, regardless of whatever the circumstances.
And I think it's important for black people to network as well, because it's a little bit different for us. Does that make sense?
Sure. So listen, I don't feel like you need to add on. I mean, I get it. It just depends on how you want to position things. it's good for anyone to network. It's good for all people to network.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? If you're like an entrepreneur, if you're trying to like expand in anything in life, the two is better than one. You know what I mean? You can help each other. Pooled resources are significantly more effective than isolated resources. So like networking is just good. I don't know that it needs a racial lens or a racial context. In order for that statement to be true, or in order to maintain that statement. However, I know that you tend to focus on race because that's, as I do as well. So like I get why you're doing that, but I don't think it's necessary. That's all I'm saying. It's
that's
not,
fair.
not a needed part of the conversation, but it doesn't hurt it at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But like I said, just to dispel this whole idea that I'm some kind of race bearer. Like there's a reason why I bring in race to. It's a reason why I bring in the black perspective into like the conversation I walk into, because I do understand that things are just a little bit different for people that were disenfranchised throughout this nation's history. That's my opinion.
It's not an opinion; it's facts.
I appreciate
that's
that.
facts.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's not an ad hominem means that I'm name calling him. First off, second off,
You call him feminine. You call him like a.
Second off,
So
the idea.
I caught another one.
Pause.
So
Can we pause?
I just did.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, so listen. I think that's a perfect example right there, right? So you made the point that it's an ad hominem attack. His response is it's not an ad hominem attack. And so then at this point now, you want to point out to him, hey, wait, you did ad hominem him because you called him feminine, which is literally attacking, like it's labeling him in order to like take away from whatever it is that he did.
Yes.
It's definitely an ad hominem attack. So at this point now, you can't move forward in the conversation. You can't just you can't let that slide, right? You brought up the ad hominem thing for a reason. So if you said it for a reason, you need to make sure that you stand on that, and that has to be established. So there's a way to speak very directly, especially when where you speak and it commands people's attention, and you make them have to address the thing that you said. There's multiple ways of doing that. One of the ways is like how you interjected, right? And you said you called him feminine. He like heard it, ignored it,
yes,
and wanted to continue on his point, right?
Yes.
So at that point, you have two choices. You can either interject again as he continues, wait, hold on, right? Something to get his attention to make sure that he's now going to have to address the thing that you said. So you stop him, wait, hold on, right? Or you wait until he's done talking, and this is really gross. But you could completely disregard everything he says and say, hold on, I made the statement that you said, and repeat what you said, and then make him address it. Is that not an ad hominem? And now at this point, you don't get to move past the point and just continue making your point. I said something first, you're not going to dismiss my point. But you can't say something and then let someone ignore it and move past it and then not even address it. Otherwise, what's the point of even having the conversation?
Beautiful. Thank you. So that's very useful. I like the idea of writing things down, and I did fail to do that, because I should have been like, okay, you know what, he doesn't want to address the fact that he did use that homonym, and it didn't help that my microphone was like malfunctioning, so it made it much more easier for him to ignore my statements and stuff like that, my interjections. But at the very least, I could have then clocked it and then memorized it, and then like let him say what he's gonna say, and then rebut with well, first of all, you need to address this, and then we'll we'll continue on to the conversation about all this other stuff you want to talk about. But
absolutely.
Thank you for that correction. That is extremely useful.
Idea that I am going to create a t-shirt business and utilize the businesses, her saying that she's an engineer, multiple businesses, and already in a first date type of scenario, he's talking about putting things within her store, puts him in a position of being submissive to her. It's her store, not his store. Now, what did she say in response? She said, we're going to get your own store. So now she is now the masculine. She is now the dominant because of him trying to insert a product within her. No, as a man, you create for her. You are the king. You are the kingdom, not her. How are you going to lead being in her store? That doesn't make any sense. But
this is like him addressing the contention, like the actual reason I called, and he aligns these actions to these I guess feminine and masculine, like I don't know, tenets or whatever like that, what you want to call it. And like Look, listen. I think this is one of the biggest lies in society. Like, look, there's completely different reasons why men and women align themselves with certain actions and stuff like that. It's usually because of like one of the genders, one of the sexes has just instinctively been better at something than the other through like whatever conditions they were faced in within that climate, within that territory, within that zone, and it essentially evolved. I guess it metamorphosed into the culture itself. That's the way. At least that's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as, okay, men were made to work, and women were made to always stay in the house and cook it clean. I'm just saying because the women were better suited for child rearing and things of that nature. For certain situations, then the man would go out and work, or in other situations, in other households, the man was just the job that he did brought home the majority of the money. You know what I'm saying? So his wife's best interest is for their family's best interest for the woman to stay home and take care of the house and take care of home and stuff like that, while he sat down and did all the hard labor and stuff like that. Like this is just the way society just kind of functioned during. I mean, I really want to say just the industrial area where this mostly happened, but like. Before then, I mean, like, yeah, men went out and fought wars and stuff like that. But in Africa and other places where there was less wars and less like less capitalistic structures like that, like how were they living? How were they going about? How do they allocate gender roles and stuff like that? It's like a lot of this stuff is just entirely dependent on cultures and stuff like that, and what that specific culture did. And I just think assigning a masculine and feminine, like, again, labeling on everything. I just think that's just entirely, like juvenile and like void of all context and understanding of like the evolution of these, I guess cultures. It's a bastardization in my opinion.
Okay. So here's what I want you to do for me. Okay.
Go for it.
I want you to take 20 seconds, and I want you to think about what you just communicated to me, and try to reduce what you communicated to me down to two sentences. I want you to try to do that.
Okay. This idea of attributing can I do it slowly? You don't matter if I do it slowly, do you?
Nope.
Okay. So this idea of attributing a gender role or gender tenet, if you will, to an action that's especially affiliated with a business.
Wait, no, wait. I need you to stop, because I feel like you're ready to talk again, and I'm not sure that you did the thing. Are you sure that you have the two sentences in your brain? This is the one sentence, and then it's going to go into one last sentence, and I was already going to be done. I already figured it out. Okay, start over and say it again. Try to say it succinctly. Go ahead, one more time.
Okay, so this idea of attributing a gender to an action that is more so in line with the business than it is anything else is entirely too. What's the word I'm looking for?
So you should have thought that word before you started speaking.
It's entirely too juvenile and devoid of all context and nuance of cultures throughout today's cultures.
Okay. So in a nutshell, it sounds like you don't believe in gender roles.
I don't believe in it. I'm gonna learn how to be brief about this. I like what you're doing here, because I need to learn how to be more brief. Hold on. It's not about brevity.
The reason why I'm saying the reason why I'm suggesting this to you the way that I am is because what happens. I think what is happening is you have a concept of an idea in your head.
Okay.
That you haven't fully developed or fully really understood yourself, but you do have like general ideas about the area of what it is what you're saying. It's like almost like it's like a cloud. Like it's there, you can see like the outline or the shape of it, but it's there, but you don't have it yet. And so then you start speaking, trying to clear a way towards this object that's like being like obfuscated by whatever cloud or whatever, and you're clearing a way to get to it before you get it. And so then as a result of that, then the conversation feels very meandering. It's like you're like wiggling to get there, like figuring it out, like whatever, and you're striving to communicate the thing, but because you didn't have it succinct from the beginning, then it ends up being work for the listener or for the recipient to break it down. What is he saying? And it's not that I can't do it. I understood what you were getting at. I did. So it's not like you didn't communicate it eventually. It's just it would help you.
What you're saying is extremely important. It's extremely important. It's funny, and I'm be very brief with this as well. But one of my friends actually suggests that I do. I create PowerPoint presentations to help me get across these points. I think that's really important. Zovila kind of reduced everything I said about just saying misogyny is a grift. So I kind of like the way he kind of put it as well. But yeah, I think there's ultimately I listen. I think gender roles are okay when they're well applicable. Okay, there's some things that men are gonna be better at doing. There's gonna be some things women are gonna be better at doing. But attributing a gender on everything is completely counterproductive. Okay.
How his opinion isn't valid. Like, what if I said I agree with him and I think what he's saying is true? You have to tell me. I'm trying to ask you to explain to me why what he's saying is not true. Oh
shit! I'm so glad you said. Okay. That just changed everything. Okay, thank you. So basically saying that how do I show him? Okay, it's about invalidating, or that's that manner of crushing his opinion.
Yeah, because
how do you crush it? How do you invalidate his opinion?
How do you invalidate? I mean, if you feel like it's only entirely opinionated and that there's like it's completely subjective and that it's possibly true, then how can you take umbrage with what he's saying? Because it would be hard for me to ever entertain the idea that someone shouldn't speak the truth just because I don't like it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a truth teller, so if something is true, I should be allowed to say it. And so, I mean, if you truly believe that what he's saying is wrong, then you should have a really strong opinion on why it's wrong. I don't want us to get too bogged down here.
It's something to think about. So it's all good.
Yeah, it is. It's just that right now, okay, we're reviewing a video where you're having a conversation with the person, and you might be talking past each other because I feel like you're trying to communicate to him that he shouldn't say what he's saying because it has a negative outcome, possibly, right? Now, in order for it to, and that might be true, possibly, right? But if what he's saying is accurate or true, it doesn't matter about the outcome. He should still be allowed to say it.
Oh yeah,
not always, but you know what I mean in this scenario. Theory, yeah. So now you guys are not even having the same conversation because he in order for you to take umbrage with what he's saying, he's going to believe that you probably should disagree with him. Like, you probably shouldn't think that what he's saying is accurate, because if you do, then it's like, well, then why the freak are you having a problem with me saying something that's true? Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I definitely understand it in theory. And if I want to prove that this specific example, this specific scenario is not an example of what you're saying, then I'm gonna have to find out a reason why is what he's saying is not true, or his opinion is not a valid opinion. So
right,
I got you.
Because that's what he believes that you're talking to him for. Whenever you're having a debate, there's a disagreement, and so if I'm saying something, typically, and if I'm debating with someone, it's because the person doesn't believe that what I'm saying is accurate, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm not sure that you know why it's not accurate. It seems like you just don't like him saying something that you might not be even sure is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it is. How do I put this? It is from a perspective of what outcomes or what. How many see? Which outlook? Let's say which worldview. Let's put it that way. Which worldview is going to produce the most? Is going to produce the best outcome? Like which. So I guess the way I'm looking, I'm not. This again. I don't want to get bogged down about this, but if we're gonna if we live in a world where only men can do one thing and only women can do this other thing that men can't do, and compare that to the world where anybody can do practically anything, which world is gonna have the most resources? Which world is gonna have the best political opinions? Which world is gonna have to be the most empathetic to each other's struggles and opinions and perspectives, so on and so forth. I just believe that the one where that's not partially bogged down, the one that's not necessarily subjugated to specific gender roles is the one that's going to produce the best outcome for more people. You know what I'm trying to say? For more people. That's the best way I can kind of explain it. But I'll put some more thought into it. I'll put some more thought into it if that won't suffice. I'm glad you made me think about it though.
I get you. I want you to know I entirely disagree. I think gender roles are like hyper important, but I'm also particularly conservative, and I don't want to debate you about that. Yeah. I just want you to try to get it into your mind that if you're going to be having a conversation with someone and disagreeing with someone, then you have to understand where the disagreement lies. And right now, I don't think you know where you disagree with him yet.
That's
so then it's really hard to have that kind of a conversation with a person in real time where you can't frame in your head why you disagree with what they're saying.
For sure. So for everybody that's watching, especially for those especially those from MTR's army that like to think that I'm trying to come to my platform and lick my wounds and talk to my friends and stuff like that and help them, and so they can console me and tell me I did a great job. This is not that type of platform. I had somebody just help me accountable laugh, right? You feel me? So, and this is what we do over here. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and continue this video.
Yep.
As the king, which most women and especially feminine women love. They love a man that thinks of himself as a king, that also has the actions to show outcomes and results in her life, leads from a perspective of protection, can lead from a perspective of pushing business forward. Towards the end of it, he said, why did I stick this around? It's because, she's about making money. No, he's coming from a position of submission. And he's coming from a position of, I like her because she's about her business or her money-making ability. So for that, I said that it is a feminine position. Does that make sense? If you frame it within the idea of what's wrong with black people networking, you got to hear the entire context of the conversation, my guy.
Like I said, I got my own clothing line. Is you putting it in your store or not? This it right here.
Honestly,
I'm a walking billboard.
We're gonna open your own store. That's what we're gonna do.
Oh no. Did you give the opportunity for the woman to not only reject you, but then to boss up on you? Did you give the young, future, successful, multi-entrepreneur business creator who's currently an engineer not only to say, no, you ain't putting your dusty ass shirt in my store? Did you just allow her to completely subvert your masculinity for filth? So brother, just real quick, so respond to like what I just said. Do you disagree that it puts him in a position of submission?
No, I don't see it. I don't think that's a position. I don't think that's
okay
when it's about business. That's a business transaction that transpired. Yes, she is the big boss. Yes, she is the more masculine position in this specific scenario. And she also has more money than him, is more accomplished than him in general. Like that's something he's not able to contend with regardless. But to add like a homonym to it, to call him feminine, or to say he's coming from a feminine perspective or whatever,
is correct. It's correct.
You can call. I don't. From what correct is not. No, that's not correct. It's like when it comes to business, it's about getting two people coming together, making an exchange, making a deal, and then both of them coming out with
but my guy, this is not.
Okay. Do you agree that there are power dynamics in business?
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. That is why I was trying to parlay by saying when I throw the air quotes about her being in the more masculine role in this situation.
So if you agree that she's in a more masculine role, then why would he not be in a more feminine role, like in comparison? Like by definition, it would be, right? Like if she's more masculine than him in this role, then he's more feminine than her in that role.
Yeah, it's the real problem is I don't even think this whole masculine feminine need to be this type of verbiage should not even be applied to business whatsoever. I mean, because and I'll give you an actual reason for that. For last time I checked, women were not in these type of positions to begin with. They don't hold business meetings. They don't pitch ideas at each other like this. They were at home and they were cooking and cleaning and stuff like that and taking care of the kids. At least going by these traditional gender roles and stuff like that.
From what you know historically, that women weren't doing this. Right. This was like a place that the space that they didn't occupy, and that for the most part, men did this.
Yes.
Then doesn't it make sense then for someone to say historically that this was masculine?
So both these men, both these people, I would argue, maybe I should have said this during that time, during this conversation. I should have said both of them were in a masculine role because women weren't making these type of engagements or deals whatsoever. Again, traditionally, women were at home. They weren't conducting business by these traditional gender roles and stuff like that.
Okay, I hear you.
Let me just add this as well. With that said, that's why I think it's not even and that's just me applying the masculine feminine logic to the situation. I don't even think this masculine feminine conversation need to be even a part of a business transaction in general. Like it has nothing to do. It has no bearings. Has no tension. Like there's nothing feminine or masculine to do with a business transaction or what those two people participated in.
Yeah, see, man, it's so hard.
I guess what I would have to ask him is what in history, like what possibly could have attached that labeling onto something that had literally nothing to do with men or women. It was about like those
historically.
Sure.
You're saying historically it had no bearing?
Masculinity and femininity and all that stuff. I'm not seeing it.
Okay. Look, you already went there. When you said that historically this was not a space for women to occupy, then that's why we would say that it would be masculine.
That's just me forcing that logic into the situation. I think that masculine feminine has no place. That conversation has no place in a business transaction. I think there's no place in it.
Okay, you're saying it has no place now, but it did have a context earlier. It did have a context. There is a context why people would tend to like view one as more masculine than the other. There's a historical context that makes sense.
I don't. And the only reason I brought that up is to disprove that to prove that the logic is flawed to begin with, because there's no way of attributing either of these parties to being feminine, because neither one of them was participated by women at all. So at the very least, he's still wrong about this dude coming from a position coming from a feminine position or feminine role, or whatever you want to call it, submissive role, when he's offering some sort of a business opportunity to her.
Okay, I'm gonna point out to you something. Earlier in the conversation, you were talking about context and why you think like race is important in the context of discussing business, even though the business transactions or interactions can happen completely devoid of race. But you think that race does have a context, even if it doesn't have an immediate context within two individuals talking. You can choose to use or choose to view it from a racial paradigm, or to look at it with a racial context. You can choose to do that, and you do choose to do that. So in the same sense, a person can choose to use gender to discuss it. with a gender context, even though a situation can be devoid of gender and a situation can happen independent of gender, you can choose to use gender. So in the same sense, the way you chose to use race earlier, he's choosing to use gender. What makes what he's doing wrong? Is it aside from you just would prefer not to?
What makes what he's saying wrong? What makes
aside from preference? Because someone can say, I don't want to look at race. You know, plenty of white supremacists would make the statement, I don't think race matters. Business is business. Meritocracy is a thing. If someone offers you a good deal and you guys can, the relationship would be advantageous or mutually beneficial, then that's what should matter, right? And someone can make that argument, and it can be their preference or their paradigm or their choice. And there's nothing wrong about it, even if it just might not be your preference, your paradigm, your choice. In the same sense, what would make his position not subjective, such that it might not be wrong, but just his preference, his paradigm, his choice, the way you use race?
I'm trying, like, I'm not gonna go in. I don't think that's it doesn't matter. I'm gonna just good faith answer the question to the best of my ability. He's gonna have to explain, as let's say, is tangibly the word, empirically. He's gonna have to like show how, again, with history, this is actually challenging. Okay, so I will try explain it this way, and perhaps you can help me like implement it into the context of the conversation me and MTR is having, right? So in the event that I approach this conversation with race as being like what you described as the paradigm and or such, I'm able to articulate that in a way that I can provide numbers. I can provide context of which how what yesteryear's decisions from the government influences the current happenings of American economy now. So that
hold on, really quick. Do you think that a person could do that with gender, for example?
I truly don't.
So you don't think that there's any historical context that would, with numbers, that we would be able to say that like yesteryear's times and conditions and culture is influential on why there are so very few female CEOs? You don't think that there's any context historically on why that's the case?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay, that's one. Or what about the fact that there are significantly more male entrepreneurs than there are female? Do you think that there's a historical context on that would make men be more likely to own businesses and operate businesses than women? Do you think that there's any historical context that we'd be able to point out to, similarly to how we did with the CEOs, that creates that paradigm?
I'm gonna say yes, but I gotta kind of touch on why, right? It like there was systemic like happenings during those times to kind of put those in that.
But the why is irrelevant. All I'm pointing out to you is that, so then earlier when I asked you directly, do you think a person can do that with gender? You are now about to explain to me the underlying concepts that allows a person to do the thing that you were saying that they can't do. So in reality, yes, they can explain historically the culture and environment that creates the difference in dynamics, that creates the disparity between outcomes with regards to gender, with business ownership and business dealings.
However,
so in the same way the same way you're doing with race, and you're saying here's the oppression, here's the culture, here's the et cetera, someone can do the same thing with gender. I'm not saying they're one-to-one. I'm not saying that women were oppressed, especially white women, as bad as black men, right? Or black women, like whatever. I'm not making that statement. I'm just pointing out to you that in the same way that you can choose to look at history you can look at history in order to contextualize the current situation and the outcomes and the disparities. You can do that with race, and you can do that with gender.
I can agree with that, but let's like what you're doing, like the way you had to explain that is far removed from what he's trying to from what he's saying. He's speaking on things.
How do you know?
He's speaking on things like from aspects. He's using words like submission and coming from a submissive role or something like that, and he's using that type of language. He's not using any type of like systemic history and like of like oppression against women and stuff like that. That kind of created the foundation, or they created the. I'm not going to get into all of that right now. I was going to say he doesn't. He
never went there. But do you believe that he is unaware of the historical context that would create these things? Do you think he doesn't know that? I believe that
he needs to. If he does know that, he should have came from that perspective and trying to convince me, and not just convince me, but convince his audience that this narrative, that this worldview is actually applicable in like this today's business climate. Like but he doesn't do that.
But he doesn't have to. If I already assume that this is something that you know and that we all know, I don't have to explain to you all of the historical details that undermine like the current thing that I'm talking about. Some things we can kind of take for granted. Like, I don't have to tell you if for example, when you told me like earlier about like how you think black businesses and black networking is important, you don't have to explain to me all of the historical subjugation in detail in order for me to accept what you're saying. Because we already know that I know about the historical subjugation, and you already know that like we're probably in agreement here. So you don't have to go in qualifying what you're saying there, because we already agree. Like, he's talking to an echo chamber, or maybe not echo chamber, might not be the right word. He's talking to an audience. It feels like it is an echo chamber. I don't care. He's talking to an echo chamber of people who all think and agree with him, his followers, his constituency. So he doesn't need to explain all of that historical context. It's already taken for granted because he already assumes that everyone knows. So then you can't fault him for not having qualified it when this is something that he feels like everyone should know.
I'm gonna say it like this, and I'm gonna leave it at this. I appreciate. I'm not me, but I'm pretty sure he appreciates the good faith that you're giving him right now. I personally don't think he's on that wave. I think like listening to his rhetoric up until this point, he's on a completely different wavelength. But what I will say is, the lesson that you're teaching me here is actually important, and I need to have that in consideration for when I actually do come and argue against somebody that I truly believe that is well versed in the history and the mechanisms of, like, I guess, feminine and masculine gender roles, and I guess in the business sense. But I'm just gonna leave it at that. Unfortunately, I don't really necessarily agree, but I understand the argument that you're making, and that if I want to be able to, I guess, further disprove this type of what you're saying, I'm gonna have to have a better argument next time. But right now, I don't have that argument, but I receive what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay. Not a networking event; it's a dating show.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh,
I need you to understand the context of the conversation. This is not a networking event. This is not a time to promote your business. It's time to try to understand the other person on the other side that is holding the balloon. She postured up multiple times in a masculine position. And listen, that's her aura. That's her essence. Her name is Rambo up on Instagram. The real Rambo. Oh no. The real Rambo. Why would you want to create a name off of the masculine ass character of Rambo? Your call. She shows masculine. She shows unwavering leadership, and she's probably going to accomplish whatever business or purpose goals that she has within her life. I'm saying that the way that he's talking about this positions him as within a feminine role, within a receiving role, not within a role of creating something himself and then leading her and getting her support, her inspiration, in order to multiply what it is that he's creating or attempting to create. So it's not networking. You're not up here to network and to talk about business.
I agree. This is not the time to be networking. I completely agree with that.
So then, when you say that, so if you agree that it's not the time to be networking, you agree, you concede to that. Then my issue again, I guess if you concede to that, then why come on here and?
I do want to say I made a mistake here and actually conceding that because I should not concede it because that's not what I truly believe. I believe the complete opposite. That's what I should have just said. My bad.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, I would say if you disagree with the point, you can't concede and then just move on, especially because conversations, good conversations, intelligent conversations tend to build off of, the foundational points. So this point that he's establishing, if you don't disagree with that point, it's going to undergird his future positions. And so then now, when you're having the conversation and you're disagreeing with the future position, before you can even get to why you disagree with the future position, you're going to need to go back to this point to break down to him why this isn't true. So then you can have that. But then when you do that, it makes a person feel frustrated because now the point that they're making is not being heard. It makes them feel like, wait a minute, now you're just grasping for straws because you're ignoring this, because you didn't address this the first time, and you're only now going back because you realize that what flows downstream is in disagreement with you. So now you need to argue the foundation, even though you agreed with it originally. So now I don't think you're being in good faith. All of these things just happen, right? And all the negativity that happens from you just allowing this point if you truly disagree with it. So you can't do that. But you were already admitting that was a bad idea. So yeah.
And I guess what you would, in the conversation we just had before this, you would say, okay, well, you also have to be able to explain why it's a invalid opinion rather than an opinion I just don't like. So I respect that as well. I'm learning.
Can't even right now. Can you tell me why that's an invalid opinion?
Oh shit! I kind of forgot what you said.
Me too.
Yeah, so what let me think. Let's just play like the last couple seconds, I guess.
Or attempting to create. So it's not networking. You're not up here to network and to talk about business.
I agree. This is not the time. Okay, so yeah, I was saying that that was not, and this is a perspective thing. It really that's really all I got. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's saying that this dating show is not the proper context it's not the proper setting to have give a business pitch. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying that why not? Basically, that's pretty much all I got. Well, okay, you know what? And I'll go. I actually do have something that I can add. I would say to further, and it just goes back to what I said earlier. Every opportunity can be opportunity to network. And I think if good things can happen from two people joining together and building upon each other's what they have up to that point, I think can only be a good thing. That can only lead to good results.
I fully agree. I mean, there are certain situations where it might not be the most appropriate to network with someone. You're at somebody's funeral, you know what I'm saying? Someone's mom's funeral. That's not a good time to do it. But yeah, I don't think, and even in that, there are situations where that networking situation might create itself, and it's just from the viewpoint of trying to help a person or recognizing that you have something that you could assist that person with or whatever. So I think the response there when he says this is not a networking event, it's like, sure, but that doesn't make networking invalid, right? Like,
okay,
a network is a network, and that's it. So even networking happens at church. People are there to learn about Jesus Christ and to accept Jesus Christ as their personal savior, and you can still network at a church. And like, oh, you do such and such. Well, I got a business and and then you literally start networking, right? True. I could help you with. So yeah, just because that might not be it might not be a networking forum, doesn't mean that network cannot and should not occur. But go ahead.
Okay. I'm like what Zovia says, right? I appreciate you, Zovia. I'm gonna read over everything you said after we kind of review all of this. Okay. To be networking. I completely agree with that.
So then when you say that, so if you agree that it's not the time to be networking, you agree, you concede to that, then my issue again, and then I guess if you concede to that, then why come on here and say, what's the problem with black networking?
Because the problem I have with you or with what you're saying is that you're adding like a negative stigma on two people like networking. Now again, I agree. This is not the time to do it.
It's not networking.
I guess an ideological standpoint.
Yeah.
If this was a networking event, you would still say the exact same thing because that's the way you will go about seeing masculine and feminine roles and things like that. The fact of the matter is this. You got something to say.
Yeah, my guy. So the context of why I do these shows is to critique those that are within the dating game and also critique modern dating culture as it exists today. You all right? Your head's down. You thinking about what I'm saying?
I'm listening, bro.
So you asked me to speak, bro. I don't know why you acting like you tired of me talking when I just
No.
So the thing is that's happening here. Do you have a T-shirt business? Does this readily relate to you? Is that why you have such a strong opinion regarding
Nice
this?
try, TR.
That's all.
What do you mean? What is pro-black?
I feel like I don't know if because. So he responds and he tells you like, "Hey man, are you okay? Like, your head's down. It seems like you didn't want me to speak. Like you asked me to speak, and then da 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 da." And so then as a result of that, like, and he says, like, "Do you have a T-shirt business? Like, what's going on, right?" And you said, "Nice try, MTR." And I feel like from you saying "nice try," it feels like to me that you think he's being dishonest or that he's doing some sort of ploy or tactic. And I think that there's a disconnect happening here because what I think is he's viewing you as like genuinely not really being interested and not caring and not wanting to hear what he has to say, and at the same time you're looking at it as if, hey, he's just bad faith and just wants to find a way of trying to attack me or malign me or something.
Yeah, the comment about him saying, "Do you have a T-shirt business?" Is this why you're like emotionally invested in this conversation, or why is this why you even brought all this up to begin with? That's completely just that's bad faith all like through and through. Like he didn't have to say that.
I hear you.
Okay. And I'm sorry, and that's why I said nice try, MCR. But anyway, yeah.
So you asked me to speak, bro. I don't know why you acting like you tired of me talking when I just
No.
So the thing is that's happening here. Do you have a T-shirt business? Does this readily relate to you? Is that why you have such a strong opinion regarding
I'm
this?
just pro-black, bro. That's all.
What do you mean? What does pro-black have to do with it? I don't care if he's white. I don't care if there was a white and a black guy. You coming up on here with this race shit as if there's some type of black culture. I'm not talking from that perspective. I'm talking the context of this show is it's a dating show. You're trying to position yourself in a positive perspective in order to get the highest degree of chance to get selected. Now, what happened towards the end of that show? She said to him, "I would like a guy that's in a better position than what you are right now." That's what she said to him. Literally. That's what she said. And the reason why she said that is because he positioned himself in a feminine weakling role. Absolutely. And that's why I said, stop faking the funk. That's why I said, stop faking the funk. So what I said is that keep working and earning what it is, the results, the good outcomes within your life. What he has earned is 4 kids by 4 baby mamas. This is way beyond just a networking conversation that you got what's wrong with black networking conversation. And it in fact goes layers beneath what it is that you're currently conceiving. Does that make sense?
I don't agree with that. It makes sense. I just don't agree. But the point I was getting at is even if this was a networking event, you would say the exact same thing about him positioning.
How do you know what I would say, my guy?
Beg your pardon?
I said, how do you know what I would say?
Because so what would you say if this was a networking event?
Then it doesn't matter. Here's the thing: if I have a popping, booming T-shirt business, and I'm like, "Hey, yo, you got a store, you got storefronts over here." First of all, I'd ask a lot more questions than the ridiculous question of just put me in your store. That's odd behavior. As a business person, you don't do that. First, you got to understand location. First, you got to understand the audience of who it is that she currently markets to. Then you got to understand how to get product into the, like there's so many questions, but just asking that question, business people, real business people don't even operate in that way. If you operate like that, then you need to change that. But here's the thing. If you're coming at it from a networking perspective and he wants to push his product in front of the right people because the people that go into that store are more than likely to buy the shirt that he's trying to market, and he can deal with the cost that is associated with the store, we're talking just straight up business right then. But the context of this is a dating show. And in fact, the girl who popped doesn't even agree with you. Why? Because she said so. She said that she wanted a guy in a better position than what he was describing himself to be.
Yeah, I already said, like 3 times already.
Keep
that I
pause.
agree with her popping. I'm talking about this idea that him coming under her with the.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to argue for you really quickly, okay? Because you obviously disagree with what he's saying there, or that is beyond the point that you were trying to make and the thing that you agreed with. Right now, the whole point is you are trying to establish that these positions that he has are not restricted to just it being a dating show, that his position is in general that someone approaching someone about putting their things in their store is inherently feminine or inherently weaker or submissive, etc., 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 right? And so that's the argument that you're giving. That's his argument, and that's the thing that you disagree with. Now, I disagree with that point too. There's goodness how many different historical examples, right? Like, we literally have to make laws to prevent people from doing things. Like, you know how Windows, how Bill Gates would literally go and start forcing people because his operating system, back in the 3.1 days and actually slightly before, it was the most sought after and most popular operating system. And so then he was able to kind of force people to capitulate. If you're going to distribute my product, then you're not going to distribute Apple products, right? And he did that. That was not a submissive position. It was a very aggressive position because he had the most sought after operating system. And so because he had the power in that situation, he was able to strong arm people into saying, you cannot sell Apple, right? So it's not inherently submissive, inherently feminine, inherently whatever in order to put something in someone else's store. Maybe his methodology of going about it might not be the most masculine because he's asking her and it's not so much positioning, right? Like, this is like a negotiation tactic is to sell yourself such that it's not that I'm requesting, I'm explaining to you why you need me in your store. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So instead of me asking, hey, would you put me in your store? It's like, so I got the best such and such and such and such. So what we should be doing is I should actually put my product in your store. And here's how you would benefit. And I'll let you be a distributor, right? So now it's not that I'm positing this as if I'm asking you for permission for you to bequeath, you know what I mean? It's more so I'm telling you, this is what I'm offering you for you to benefit, right? And I think that's literally negotiation 101 is you have to make someone want to do something. That's the way you get people to do things, is by making them want to do it, even if it's for you. So it's selling it in a way that it appears that, hey, this is actually in your best interest, right? It could be manipulative. It could be just genuine, whatever. That's negotiation. That's power dynamics, blah, blah, blah. So I disagree with him, but you're not articulating that. And it feels like you're it's just you disagree. You disagree with it being feminine or masculine, but not for the reasons that I just stated. You could easily use that argument now because I stated it to you, but I don't feel like you had fully captured that argument yourself. You would just be regurgitating the argument that I'm giving you. If you have a position, so much about debating, so much about conversations is not necessarily, or let me just say it this way. There are 3 ways to win a debate, okay? You can either present an argument that's so strong that a person can never contend with it. Reason A, X, Y, Z, A, therefore B, whatever, basic syllogisms. So then there's just no other way to contend. It's just follows deductively that my argument is correct. That's one way of debating. The second way of debating is to just simply disprove the other person's argument. Here's all the things that you said, and here's how I know that what you said was wrong. Okay? That's the other way of doing it. The third way to do it is to dismiss the other 2 arguments and then maybe an appeal to ignorance, or just, well, it's not your argument and it's not this thing, so it can't be those things. So therefore has to be a third option, right? There's you know what I mean? But ultimately, you have to be doing one of the other, and I don't feel like you are really soundly standing on any argument yourself here. I don't think that you fully understand what it is that you disagree with. It feels like you've gone into a conversation that you just don't like the framing that he's giving, but you don't have a, you're not even sure about your disagreement with the framing that he's giving. It's just you don't like it.
I wouldn't say I'll go with. We can go with that. The way what I was gonna say was I guess you can say I didn't probably articulate it. I would say at worst. I kind of feel like within the like I said, the reason I called was like I said, a very specific reason, and we made the conversation about like two additional things outside of the reason, the original reason that I called. Which I kind of feel like I even though you stated that it was just basically an appeal to, it was like something I was kind of debating on from a subjective matter, but I couldn't necessarily invalidate his opinion. It was like a opinion battle, opinion tug of war, if you will. But regarding like the other stuff that he kind of added to the conversation, I was not necessarily prepared for those things. That's why I agree with some of the things that he said, because I'm like, okay, well, of course the dude is of course he's not a good dude because he got 4 baby mamas, of course he popped the balloon because all these what I meant to say was of course she popped the balloon, but it's not necessarily because she didn't agree with me. It's because the dude got there's some other stuff going on in this dude that makes him not desirable of a person to her. You know what I'm saying? Just act like, but to attribute why she popped to the things that I said is just kind of wild, because she didn't even hear no parts of my argument whatsoever. Like, the girl, she has she came to the dating show. She knows what she likes. She has preferences, and she wants to find somebody that attributes to that preference. It has nothing to do with like anything that I had to say. In my opinion, that's not how I saw it, at least. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I get what you're saying. I definitely needed to have a more firm understanding on why I disagree with them. You know what I'm saying? And better, and obviously, and I just wrote down what you just said. I had to come up with an argument that he can't contend with, which is probably what I was trying to do, and then disprove an argument, and then that'd be the second one, and then the third one was I just have this appeal to ignorance. So so that I would definitely I'm definitely gonna hold on to these things and try to frame my next conversations with MTR and other especially red pill content creators with these three components in mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Why is this? What is it on here? Oh, whatever.
But here's the thing. If you're coming at it from a networking perspective and he wants to push his product in front of the right people, because the people that go into that store are more than likely to buy the shirt that he's trying to market, and he can deal with the cost that is associated with the store, we're talking just straight up business right then. But the context of this is a dating show. And in fact, the girl who popped doesn't even agree with you. Why? Because she said so. She said that she wanted a guy in a better position than what he was describing himself to be.
Yeah, I said like 3 times already that I agree with her popping on. I'm talking about this idea that him coming under her with the clothing line is some sort of a female trait or some crazy like that. That's the problem. That's why I called in. I think that's utter nonsense, especially from a black perspective. Black people should be networking, even if the man is considered under the woman, even though if she has all the business or whatever. Doesn't make sense.
But here's the thing. I gotta move on to the next person here in a quick second. The thing is that it sounds like you agree with me under the dating context. So then what are we even talking about? Well, yeah. Because I'm telling you that this is look at all of the videos on my channel. This is the context is dating, but you're arguing something from your own position, taking things that I'm saying and saying what I would be saying in a situation if the context was changed. For what? Does it make you feel better to straw man my argument?
It's not a straw man.
It is. I'm telling you, it's out of context. A straw.
So, real quick question: did I make the mistake of playing straw man there?
I don't think you're intentionally straw manning him. I think here's the thing: if you genuinely believe that he would have the same argument, even like outside of that context, which I think he probably would, to be honest. I think even still, no matter what he would look at it, I feel like he kind of expressed it. that basically the person asking, the store owner, is inherently more masculine than the person who has the product, which is just, I think that's just wrong. Like I said, Microsoft. There was nothing subservient, nothing submissive about Microsoft. It was literally the most dominant operating system in existence in 92, right? 93, 94. And for a long time, I would imagine maybe Macs might have caught up quite a bit in the last decade, but for multiple decades, Microsoft was the single greatest operating system, or the most dominant operating system. They had at some point 75% of the share of the marketplace. So there was nothing subservient, submissive about Microsoft in that time. So just simply because you're asking for your product to be put in a store does not make you submissive or subservient. Said all that to say, that was his position, and in order for you not to be strawmanning him, instead you have to ask, right? So if Microsoft, right, so since you believe this to be true, which I agree with you, by the way, I also believe that to be true, so then my thing would be to ask him, so if this was a networking event and he did that, and I think you did ask him that once, and at one point he said it doesn't matter, which is just dismissive and he's not answering your question, so you stop right there. It doesn't matter, it does matter. So I'm asking again, can you answer the question? If he, right, and then you re-ask the question, if he had been at a networking convention and he asked for his product to be in a store, would you consider it to be feminine in that situation? And now he has to either admit yes or no, or completely continue to run from the question, and then by doing so, it kind of betrays that he actually feels that way anyway, and so you still get to make the same conclusion that you would make otherwise. But you have to make sure that you make that point. You have to make sure that point is established, and as it stands now, you haven't established it. You kind of just let him get away with it.
Yeah.
So then it's and now you're arguing this thing, which again, I'm not saying is wrong, because I believe it to be true as well. But you're arguing it as if it's true, even though he hasn't admitted that it's true. So then at this point now, you don't, that argument has no purchase, right? You can't say you believe this if you haven't established that he believes it.
True. Okay. So yeah, he has to be able to say it as well. And if he's not, if he's gonna change up his opinion, and with the new context of being they're in a business meeting or of some sorts, and he says, okay, no, it doesn't matter that whom is the feminine or the masculine role is not a feminine masculine thing at all. It's just a completely different thing that's happening. Then I'm gonna have to. What would I do with that information then? Where would I go from there after I established that he established that different setting will change his opinion on that matter?
Oh, sure. Then at that point, then you can establish, okay, so this thing isn't inherently masculine or feminine, but you assigned it to being feminine, and then you would have to explain to me, because it seems really, really spurious at that point, how is this thing, just because it's dating, therefore making it feminine? How does adding, simply the fact that it's a dating show inherently, assign some sort of gender or some sort of inferiority or femininity, masculinity, dominance, so on and so forth? What about it being dating makes it guaranteed to be this then, right? Because I don't think there is a solid argument for that.
There you go. Okay, roger that. Okay. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just really quickly. Look, it's something I've actually been studying recently for whatever various reasons. That's the way you do a deposition, right? It's the 3 C's. You make them commit, then you credit the statement, then you confront. So the first thing is you could ask, right? And that's why, like I said, it's crazy. I've been inherently doing this already on my own. But the first thing you would do is you would ask, hey, if this was a different show, or if this was a networking thing, would you agree with this, right? That's making them commit to it. So they have to either say yes, okay, I would do that, or no, I wouldn't do that. Once they've committed, now you get to credit the statement, where it's okay, so you're saying and so on and so forth, and make sure that it's you've really painted out the argument and so on and so forth. And now that you've done that, then you confront them with, okay, so now that you've committed to that, you're saying this, but I don't understand how we get to this point. And now you can confront them on whatever part it is that you disagree with. This is literally how you do a deposition, right? It's like, so you said X, and it's like, yes, you said X, and you believe X, right? And it's like, yes, I believe X. It's like, okay, good. Here's the evidence that X isn't true. Or here, like, the X is not verifiable, so that's not a good argument. And now at this point you can confront. But you have to do that first. So if you haven't done that groundwork, you don't really have a solid argument now, because then they get to make the statement, hold on, you're making assumptions that I've never verified. So then how can you say for sure, or, you know, how can you say with certainty that this is what I believe, or this is what you don't know. I can't say with certainty. And so it does feel strawmanish. It becomes unfair.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't believe that you were. By the way, I don't believe you're strawmanning him. I don't think that was the case, and I know that was absolutely not your intention. And I, again, fully believe that had this been in another circumstance, he still would have maintained that thing, because his argument hasn't all been rooted in gender or in dating. His argument has just been that's inherently like propositioning the other person for the store thing is inherently more feminine or passive or submissive or whatever. Okay. That's been his argument from the very beginning.
Okay, so
but you have to establish that.
All right. So during this deposition, I'm gonna research depositions because that does sound very interesting. But committing, credit, and then confront is like the 3 C's you had mentioned there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I got that written down as well.
I just looked that up last night. I just learned that last night.
It's
something I've always done anyway. I'll link it to you.
All right,
some website. Yeah.
Straw man means that you're answering something. You're speaking up for something that I never said. What you're taking is my argument and you're placing it in a different context. But I'm telling you it's in a dating context. And in fact, the girl doesn't even agree with you.
Oh my God, dude. Listen, I said like 5 times already that I agree with her popping on him for that reason.
So then why are we having a conversation? If you agree with me, then why are we having a conversation? You're standing up for something that I never talked about. You're riding high on this black caller shit. Excuse me, on this black networking shit when it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about.
I'll put it in that context then. I don't think for that, there's other reasons why she should have popped that balloon, especially the multiple kids. I kind of think women with no kids should date men with no kids, but that's besides the point.
Sure.
He should be worried about those other mothers. Like Kevin Sanders said the exact same thing. That's putting that aside though. Her popping the balloon because he's trying to network with her. I think that's also nonsense. But if she wants the more traditional type of thing where the man is like the lead, the head of some shit, I mean that's a thing, I guess. I think it's foolish, but I understand that's her perspective, that's her preference. But
and my response to that is that you need to lead from a position of power, and that was not a powerful position that he put himself in. And the lady on the show agrees with me. Anyway, thank you so much, brother, for calling in. I appreciate your point of contention. Feel free to call back anytime.
All right, disagree, but take it easy.
One thing I did want to mention is he didn't add another caller because he kind of just started asking everybody how they feel about the call about my call. One girl called in and she had mentioned that she doesn't want she tried to explain to me like a man performing a feminine thing, right? A feminine thing that's whatever, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And like for me, I'm like, okay, sure. I guess that's fine, I guess, but I don't think that's gonna be believed by every man that's gonna be in that position, but whatever. That's not really that part. It's not necessarily important. The weird thing to me is MCR actually agreeing with her, right? Because this dude throughout this, I mean, you just heard it right there. Men need to be leading from a position of power. His whole platform is about promoting masculinity. Men need to be more masculine. That's his whole spiel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, a young lady comes in talking about, oh yeah, just because that man coming from a position of femininity, that doesn't make it a bad thing. And I'm like, and you're not gonna correct that, MCR? And he agreed. So that's something else. That was like kind of the last thing I kind of found quite interesting about that episode, if you will.
Yeah. People can have nuanced positions. Yeah, it's hard, bro. Like, because you have to ask the questions and allow a person to qualify what their positions are before you can fully attack their positions. And that's why in the beginning of the conversation, I was trying to get you to understand like where it was and, you know, what the argument actually was, where you disagreed, so that you could actually, like, that's why I said, if you can't write those sentences out like that, if you can't do that, then it means you don't actually understand the conversation yourself. Right. And that's why I was like, that's why I was like kind of pushing you like, hey, no. Like, write it out. Write down what their position is, what your position is, where you disagree, to make sure that you understand it first. Because too many people get into debates that they frankly don't get themselves. They don't understand even what they're arguing. And I feel like that was almost kind of what you guys were doing there.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that leads to, like, you know, kind of bad outcomes, because, you know, then, yeah, you're going to feel like pretty empty at the end of the debate, because it feels like, well, you know, we're arguing two different things, and it, you know, it never feels good. It never feels good to be arguing with someone and to feel like your argument didn't actually get where it was supposed to get to. And there's no way you're not going to feel that way if you're arguing with someone, but then you don't suss out where the disagreement lies. It's going to feel empty. And like, I feel like in this situation, like, you guys were arguing past each other, like, at certain points. And like, for example, that part when you ask, like, okay, what if this was like, you know, whatever, and whatever, and he's like, oh, it doesn't matter. No, I'm sorry. The better example, when you were trying to make the argument that, like, hey, like, that you're pro-black, and he was like asking, what does race have to do with the situation? And he felt like race was completely irrelevant. That's you guys both had separate, like completely distinct arguments there. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, you considered race to matter in this situation. He, like, considered gender, right? That was his paradigm. And so you guys had totally different paradigms, and it felt like both of you were, like, taking turns dismissing each other's positions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think well, I want to say that give me like enough like additional time. I wanted to I want to get into a conversation about his paradigm being essentially just flawed all around. That's kind of why I want to get at, but the problem is I just didn't do a good job at executing. You know what I'm saying? So, and I definitely received that, but at the same time, I really didn't want to. He keeps asking me the question of, why are you calling? Why are we disagreeing? Blah blah blah. And it's like I'm sitting there repeating myself at the same thing. Like this perspective you taking. You adding this paradigm to this business transaction. This business proposal is nonsensical. And I guess the best thing for me to do is to not let them change, like, move the conversation at different places, and applying what you told me, find ways to essentially pivot, like, I guess, command the conversation and lead him to questions that he won't be able to explain himself out of, essentially.
Sure. I mean, okay, but
what I missed?
No, you didn't miss anything per se. Because that's a somewhat of a bad faith framing, right?
Okay.
But that's approaching the conversation from the perspective of trying to win a debate, right? Not necessarily trying to have a conversation, not necessarily truly trying to understand, like, fully what another person believes, and, you know, so on and so forth. It is somewhat bad faith to, like, go into the conversation saying, I'm going to ask the kind of questions that I know are going to trap you, so then that way I get you to admit this thing that you're not trying to admit. That automatically assumes that he's not being honest. It automatically assumes that, like, that the questions you're going to ask him would actually expose him, right? And that, you know, you'll win the debate. Like, it's not it's not a necessarily good thing. You know what I mean?
I do need to add this. Like this is it's essentially a disagreement show. It's a disagreement type of thing. So he's kind of he's kind of asking for this type of smoke. You know what I mean? So does that change your opinion?
I mean, no, not. I mean, no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay.
Because ultimately, what it is like bad faith is bad faith, and so like it being a disagreement show, going in there specifically with the idea that I'm going to find ways, like areas where we disagree, and like I'm going to prove you wrong and make you argue things that whatever and trap you. It still is bad faith.
Really?
Like, just regardless. Oh, it is. If you're asking a question and the question that you're asking is specifically with the intention of trapping a person, it's not good faith. Because your whole purpose is I'm trying to ask a question specifically to win. I'm not asking a genuine good faith question just because I want to understand the information. I'm asking a question specifically to trap you or to body you. That's not good faith.
Even in the setting of him inviting debates.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Because
so
good
otherwise
faith
you have to win debates by way of understanding his argument and then what do you? Okay, so I get the intel. I gathered intel by way of by questioning, right? And what am I doing with this information to win a debate and ethically?
Okay. You win a debate ethically by assuming that the other person is telling all of the truth and by presenting an argument that's so good that the person can't argue against it, or by completely destroying their arguments that they've presented, therefore showing that they don't have a strong enough argument, right? Like the ways that I described earlier. None of those things require bad faith necessarily, right? Like I can just literally attack your arguments and you say A, therefore B, and I can say, here's how we know not A. For this reason and that reason and that reason and that reason. Okay. You said A, therefore B, and we now know not A. So we cannot say B, right? So then at that point, I've won the argument, right? And so then at this point, I didn't have to ask you questions in bad faith. I didn't have to try to like trap you. I didn't have to assume you were lying. I can just present to you an argument that's better than yours and why my argument is right. Oh, the alternative is just to ask them the question. For example, if I can ask you point blank, hey, in another scenario, would this be okay, right? Then if they say, I expect them to say yes, right? Like, yeah, in another, or whatever, right? Let me think of an example. I think this person genuinely doesn't like me. I think this person doesn't like me, and they're telling me that they like me. And so now I'm asking them different questions and so on and so forth in order to try to get them to admit that they don't like me. Then that means now that's not good faith. Good faith means I trust you to be accurate, honest, and true. If I'm having to ask you specifically manipulative questions in order to bait you into admitting the truth, then that means I think you're lying. How can I think you're lying and be in good faith? If I'm having to try to trap you in order to force you to admit something because I can't just ask you directly, hey, is X X? And because I know you're not going to admit it, so I have to ask you first, hey, just to be clear, this is a Z, right? Yes. And okay. And just, do you think that this thing is the letter that precedes Z? And they go, yeah. See, so it is X. See, that's my point. That I'm having to trap you and cajole you into admitting this thing, that's not good faith. I don't think you're honest. Because otherwise I can just ask you, is this an X? You get it? Like if I can just directly ask the thing and make you answer the thing and you're going to admit the thing. But if I don't think you're going to do that and I have to ask manipulative questions in order to trap you so that I can use it against you to prove to you that you think X, then that's not good faith. I'm obviously believing that you're not being honest.
Okay, so yeah, I'm saying that I'm just with that we had like maybe we just had like different interpretations of what you meant by that concept we was just disgusting. So what you're saying right there, okay, now I follow. I just didn't understand completely what you were referring to. So okay, I'm gonna meditate on it. I'm obviously gonna edit this stuff up and rewatching this like that and capture everything that you're saying. So, but otherwise, yeah, I think that's a pretty okay note to end the conversation off on. For the most part, I think I appreciate everybody for sticking with us and stuff like that. I think this type of conversation is, again, very necessary because it kind of, I'm gonna say like this. if people are still gonna get hoodwinked from the things that we hear from our president and other like pro-black figures and stuff like that across YouTube space, then well, conversations like this is supposed to help us, navigate out of those simple tricks that they use to get their positions. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you can't just let somebody call it. You can't just allow somebody to be held accountable, and then all they say is, "Oh, that's a trick bag," or they pocket watching. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, they're completely absolved of all wrongdoing or accusations and stuff like that. It's complete another nonsense. But these types of conversations, understanding like I guess debates and what can kind of how people can kind of flip you up and trick you, and the conversation me and Fanatiq has been having, how you can essentially land yourself in an argument that you just don't even completely understand yourself. Yeah, all this stuff and then some is leading a lot of people like astray, if you're black or otherwise. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go. I'm happy to end it off on that note. Fanatiq, if you got anything to add, you can please do so now.
I mean, like, in a nutshell, I would just say this: anytime you're having a conversation, anytime you're having a debate, whatever the idea is in your head, you have to be able to express it yourself. I forget who it was that said it, but in a nutshell, it's that if you can explain something simple enough that you can explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. If you can't break something down for a 5-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself. Not fully. Obviously, there's degrees to it. But if I'm asking you to explain something and you're really, really struggling to do so, then that means that you don't fully understand it yourself. And then that's going to lead to all sorts of proxy conversations and debates and things where, like, both sides are not really fully getting everything out. And then it's just going to look really, really bad, just period. You have to be able to express yourself very succinctly. And a big part of that is learning to process your own ideas. It is a skill like that some people take for granted. But being able to process something and understand it, even in your own head, is its own skill, and it needs to be mastered, especially if you want to debate people. Because if you're struggling to do it in a non-contentious, uninterrupted environment, then to be able to do so on the fly, on your toes, while you know that someone is not necessarily going to give you all of the credit and all the good faith, is never going to work. It's a skill. And if it's not something you can develop, be very careful with debating, and make sure you're having conversation with, like, really, 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 really hyper good faith people. That's all I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Again, this has been the Chicago Black Delegation Podcast. Thanks for everybody to stop by. Thanks for everybody that stopped on MTR's channel and stuff like that and saw what that conversation was about. So again, this is not gonna be the last time I'm stopping on MTR stuff. As a matter of fact, if anybody can, like, link me to other content creators that do, like, open mic smoke sessions and stuff like that, I would like to be a part of those types of dialogues as well. But otherwise, yeah, hope everybody got something out of this, and we'll catch you on the flip side, man. It's been the HT of the higher thinking of the Chicago Black Delegation Podcast, and this has been Fanatiq. Oh, Fanatiq, real quick, how can they find you, my guy?
Everywhere. Mr. Fanatiq, MrFanatiq. Ask Fanatiq on YouTube. And, just my music and stuff is just on Fanatiq. Just Fanatiq on Spotify and Tidal and whatever the freak.
For sure. Okay, man. Again, thank you, Fanatiq, for stopping by. I'll catch you on the flip side.